We've been here before, haven't we? Luton Town 2, Aston Villa 3, late heartache for the town once again. Alongside me to review the game is the Lutonian journalist James Cunliffe and the incredible Luton Town fan Mark Crowther. Gents, we're ready to, look back on what might have been?
Yes, let's relive it again.
Bloody Groundhog Day, innit?
It is indeed. We'll review it all after this intro.
I love this town. I love this town. I love this town. You know what I love about this town is actually you. Everyone in it has got this massive soul.
We're Luton people, and that's what we care about.
Hello everyone, welcome along to another episode of the Luton Town Supporters Trust podcast. As I said before the intro, we're looking back at Luton Town 2, Aston Villa 3, a night of so near, so far and so bloody annoying. And we'll sum it all up in the next sort of 45 minutes or so. Before we do that though, Mark, thanks for joining us for this episode of the podcast. In fact, you're with us for all of this week's podcasts, aren't you? Before we get going, introduce yourself. How long have you been a Luton fan? All of that?
So, yeah, Mark Crowther, been a Luton fan for 43 years. So, 25th of April, 81, ingrained in me for the first game. A lot of people know me as I crazily cycle to all the games, all the away games for charity. So, that's how people might know me.
And we will discuss that a little bit further over the next sort of couple of podcasts and things. But Jimbo, let's turn it to football. I mean, we've seen this record before, haven't we? This movie, rather, before, and the sequel is no better than the original.
Yeah. I mean, we could just replay the Liverpool game, the Liverpool podcast, the Arsenal podcast, the Burnley podcast, and go and have a beer, I suppose, couldn't we? It's pretty much the same thing. Valiant defeat, but it should have been more.
As in, should have been more than a defeat. Yeah, absolutely. It should. I mean, Mark... They say, there's that saying, isn't there? It's the hope that kills you. And at 2-2, we're full of hope. And then we just go and shoot ourselves in the foot again.
It's just the effort that they put in after the first half, and just the effort they put in to get back to 2 each. And you thought, right, we'll go and get the win. And like I said before, like a point would be a good result considering the form that Villa are on and where they are in the league. And part of you thinks, right, we'll just consolidate, take the point, and then out of nowhere, the killer goal that just broke our hearts.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, I mean the annoying thing is, James, it looked like their race had been run. It looked like they'd fizzled out in the first half. We were absolutely dominant, much like the Burnley game. If there's a winner in the game, it's coming in the Kenilworth end, and then out of nowhere it didn't.
I'm getting properly bored with how ruthless this league is, honestly. It's just insane because Aston Villa, for as good as they were in the first half, didn't have a sniff in the second half. And it was all Luton. After the equaliser, it looked like Luton would go on and get a winner. Carlton Morris had a chance, had another one flash across, although it was offside, carbon copy of the goal. Cross after cross, so much more intensity, all of that stuff. And they did not have one save that Kaminsky had to make, quite comfortable for him. By the way, his top corner one in the first half, absolute worldie. And they didn't have a sniff. And it's got to the point where you just feel like against these top four teams that you get into those late stages and they can just whip any old ball in the box and it goes in. And the thing is, it wouldn't have gone in if it was just defended properly from everywhere. Stopping the cross coming in and tracking Dina. None of that happened, and it's just so much great effort in that second half for nothing. I mean, you could still point to the first half how it was pretty naff. There was no intensity whatsoever, and not helped by Bell going off injured. I'm sure we'll talk about that, but once you've got yourself back into that sort of position, you need to capitalise, and they didn't.
No, they didn't. Mark, when the team sheet was revealed, 3 changes from the side that lost to Manchester City, although, you'd be hard to remember a third one. Kaminsky for Krul, Kabore for Ogbene, but Ogbene was on so quickly that you forgot that he actually started the game on the bench, and Townsend came in for Corley Woodrow. How did you feel about the team when it was picked?
I was surprised that Amari'i was the way he went off against Man City. Surprised that he was able to start, and yeah, we just got used to Chio just being one of the first names on the team sheet. But we also appreciate that the amount of effort that they put in, that Rob's got to manage the team, and we're sort of getting threadbare on injuries already at the moment, and they know the players better than anyone, and so maybe it was just to sort of give him a breather, although he didn't get much of a breather. how quick he came on. I also wasn't surprised with the third change with Corley Woodrow, just in terms of the way that Villa press and just trying to find that space. So wasn't too surprised with the changes, but more like just seeing Amari'i, and obviously that came back after a couple of minutes.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, and it's obviously a doubt in the build up to the game. Rob said he would give him as long as possible. I think it's pretty obvious now, James, that they took a gamble. They put all their chips on black, and red came out on the roulette wheel, and risk worth taking, possibly, I suppose, if they could have got him through to half time or something. It just highlights how much balance he brings that back three, doesn't it? And I like Mark says, Chio was just rested because he played so many games and his rest lasted all of 5 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it was a risk worth taking in the end. I mean, we talked in the preview podcast about Gabe, whether if he's half fit, you give him a go. And did we even mention Elijah? Even though, after we've done that podcast in the press conference, he said that both of those players were not going to feature. But I think we're at this stage now where we need to get them fit. We can't play them half fit and risk further injury because there ain't enough games for them to recover from. If a hamstring befalls somebody in the same way it did Sambi earlier on in the season and he's out for 2 months, then the season's gone, isn't it? So yeah, but at the same time it's threadbare. I think the main, if you're going to look for a positive from the game, it's that Hashioka came on and was outstanding, and suddenly the defensive issues don't look as bad. I mean, there's still not much options, chop and change, but it was an assured presence really, and probably when you look back on it, probably should have come on a lot earlier than trying to deploy Doughty as a left-sided centre back.
Yeah, it'd be interesting if you asked Rob Edwards if he had his time again, whether he would make that change. Listen, Rob knows Hashi. He knows all of the players. He's got all the data at his disposal. Maybe Hashi's just not ready for what would have ended up being sort of 95 minutes with injury time and everything else that was added on. But it did affect the balance of the side, didn't it? Having Alfie as that sort of left-sided centre-back with Chio as the left wing-back. First of all, it took away Alfie's attacking threats and the crosses and everything that he provided so well in the second half. But we just had no width down that left-hand side, and we were just flat as a result, really, weren't we, Mark? In that first half, we just couldn't build up a head of steam at all.
I think from the first half was Villa were just like, we didn't take Villa out of their comfort zone the way we did in the second half, and losing that creativity with Alfie out wide, as you said, having him in the middle, we just like everything was like the second half. We just picked up the pace and we just got them out of the comfort zone. Whereas in the first half, I think everything was just too comfortable for Villa. Goals change games and goals influence games. So when they got the goals, they could control the game even more. But we just created very little in the first half. We didn't look any threat at all, and yeah, it was just like a struggle in the first half to sort of stamp our normal pressing game, the normal intensity that we are able to put. I mean, look at some of the best teams that we've put on the back foot with our intensity, our pressing. Arsenal, Man United, all the best teams have struggled to cope with that intensity, and it just wasn't there in the first half.
Yeah, no, that's right. We got pelted in the comments of our preview show for saying Aston Villa were bad on the road. We didn't actually say that, did we? We just said they're not as good away as they are at home. That's a compliment to their home form, rather than
that was the difference.
Rather than saying that they were bad away. I looked at the odds earlier, James, for Ollie Watkins to be the player of the season this season. There are 8 names ahead of him. Admittedly, they all play for Man City or Liverpool. But if there are 7 better players in the Premier League than Ollie Watkins, I haven't come across them, and I'm kind of glad I haven't come across them, because he looked lively as anything in that first half in particular. Every time McGinn or Douglas Luiz or Leon Bailey had the ball, he was sprightly, he was sharp. His feet are so quick, and I don't just mean his pace, I mean the way he just gets the ball out of his feet and then wallop. The shot that hit the post was a perfect case in question. And if he'd scored from one of those chances, you'd have been like, well, fair enough. He's top-class operator. He's done it to all of the teams in the league. But Luton don't concede in that fashion. They concede from a bloody free header from a set piece. Now, he's not the tallest bloke. You know, they brought a lot more giants up than him. Yet it's him, top scorer, one of the top scorers in the league. I think it's only Salah and Erling Haaland above him. And he's given a free header 6 yards out, 7 yards out, whatever it was, to open the scoring. And you're like, Town, for Christ's sake, we're killing ourselves again.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, we were talking about like keeping it tight for the first 15, 20 minutes, and they managed to do that. But yeah, he had some chances and stuff, and you're going to expect or need Thomas Kaminski to make some saves, and he did. But it's bordering unforgivable to give a player of that quality the time and space that he had. There was not a soul around him for the header. I mean, you could argue maybe that Mengi gets blocked off, not in any way that would draw a foul, but that stops him from getting there. But then you've got to bully away to the ball, or bully away to the man, and it's just so disappointing that they were so good in crossing, heading from set pieces and things like that. To concede one like that with absolutely no one around him it's just so frustrating, because you've given the platform that we wanted. We spoke about it, even though the game was a bit drab and Luton didn't have much go forward. They were keeping them out, and it's just so soft. Again, the atmosphere goes a bit flat, and then the second one is almost worse, because, like I say, there was a slight blocking that means Mengi can't get to him for the header, but they've just switched off. And we've talked about this so many times. You cannot, not for a second, but they switched off. You can't blame Chio for playing him onside, because on the other side of the pitch, there's 2 or 3 defenders closer to Watkins who are just not paying attention. And he goes through, you know, albeit his first touch is unbelievable and his finish is outstanding, but you've got to go with you meant all the time, and it's so frustrating. That's, you know, they all talked about. I spoke to a number of players after the game yesterday, and Edwards all talked about it, that the first 2 goals were really disappointing, and I mean that's putting it lightly, really.
Yeah, that's what I meant about Watkins's quick feet. The touch of that, the left-footed touch was perfect. He couldn't miss, unfortunately, and he didn't miss. And
I mean, in contrast, in that first half, Luton were trying to spray balls out to the wings, and they either weren't going to people, or players would fall over. It's like it's a Kabori falling his arse. Improved after the break, but just nothing was going for him. And there was a point where Ross Barkley was trying to find something in his quarterback style. There was no movement in front of him, and he's getting so exasperated. He threw his arms up in the air. And, you know, whether that's because we're missing the running of Brown and Adebayo, perhaps, but there was just nothing there. And Villa was so comfortable just with those banks of 4. I mean, you probably could make it an extra one in there as well, but it was compact, and they didn't look troubled. Maybe that's the sign of a top team, but they just didn't do enough in the first half to try and get it, to try and impose themselves on the game.
No, we didn't. We almost got lucky, didn't we, with their second goal. Chio nearly doesn't play him onside. It's very, very tight, as you could tell by the length of time that the VAR took to decide that it was a goal. But obviously, we've all seen it back on Match of the Day or various other means, and we can see that it is a goal, unfortunately. But unlike on Tuesday night, Mark, in between goals 1 and 2, where on Tuesday we did get forward and we did get some crosses in the box and we nearly had something to show for it. We couldn't get wide and in behind them at all. I think Rob alluded to it in his post-match press conference. They defend quite high up the pitch, but there was just no way in behind them. We almost had to go around the enclosure to get around them. It was just mad. And I mean, thankfully it all changed in the second half, but we just couldn't find a way in that first half, could we?
No, like I said, they were just too comfortable and needed to be taken out of the comfort zone. But it just seemed too congested. I think after the last 2 home games, the Man City and the Man United, where we conceded really early, it was just, for me, it's just stay in the game. We don't want to be 2-0 down very early on, and just stay compact and be competitive and not give them anything silly. But the other side to that is trying to impose ourselves on the game and show the intensity that we've been famous for this season. But we just couldn't make our mark on the game to make them feel uncomfortable.
No, we couldn't. Rob said that he didn't give them a rocket up their arse at half time, but he's given them something, whether it's a can of Red Bull or something. But we came out much the better side in the second half, James. Maybe not straight away, but once Hashioka came on, it was all changed, wasn't it? Alfie went out to the left, where he's obviously a hell of a lot more comfortable. Chio got in between their 2 lines and had the pace to go at their defence. And all of a sudden, we were on the front foot. I don't know if their intensity dropped a little because it was so easy for them in the first half, but either way, we were getting in down that right-hand side. We obviously sort of targeted that because every attack was coming down that side, and you kind of got the feeling that we were going to get back in the game. And then we did get back in the game. An in-swinging corner, the only one where Chong actually blocks the goalkeeper off. Again, not in a foul way, but stops him from coming. He came for every other one and caught every other one of the in-swinging ones. But we finally got the goalkeeper blocked off. There's an incredible save from Matty Cash on the line from a Reece Burke header, which thankfully all he can do is just direct it into the path of Carlton Morris, who gets it back into the middle. And after a bit of a pinball and scramble, and it's like a school playground, wasn't it, for a couple of seconds, thankfully it fell to Heath Chong, who probably rather enjoyed scoring in that game in particular after the stick he was getting in the first half, and got us right back in the game.
Yeah, it was a good goal at a good time to get, and I mean, they did their very best to try and keep out not only the Cash one, which is unbelievable instincts, because Reece Burke is always point blank and he's on the goal line, but when Morris recycles the ball, Burke gets the touch and Martinez gets in the way, and you're thinking at that stage, I mean, it all happens in a split second, but it's enough time for everything to go through your brain that this is not going in. So the fact that it did and Chong managed to, it's obviously lifts the crowd and stuff like that, and it was deserved at the point. It had been coming, and it gives you hope, gives you a chance. Villa have done that before. They've gone 2-0 up. Ollie Watkins referenced it in his Sky Sports interview straight after the game that's happened. I forget the game that they did it, but maybe it's something where they have been so comfortable and they go 2-0 up, they think they've won it. Who knows? But Luton definitely did impose themselves more. So it could be 6 of one and half a dozen of the other in that respect. So, but yeah, it was a good goal to get Luton going. But the thing is, they kept pressing and kept going, and to get the second, and then there only looked like one winner. So I can't believe we're sitting here and we're not talking about that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Mark, he wasn't with us for the preview podcast, but myself and James highlighted the fact that Villa do not defend set pieces well. We just had a taste of that with that corner. And then we've been speaking a lot about Groundhog Day on this podcast. Anyone who went to Everton, the league game, they saw this move coming, because Alfie's ball to the back post is absolutely inch perfect. And Morris, like he did at Goodison Park, on the volley, straight in the bottom corner. It was almost like all Aston Villa had to do was put dark blue shirts on it, and it would have been an exact replica of the goal. But it really did get us hope get our hopes up. And as James has just said, at that point you think plenty of time left for a winner, and it's only us that's going to get it.
I mean, that Carlton Morris goal, I mean, when you watch it back on TV, it looks even better because the ball's coming over everyone. It's going to the back post. Carlton's obviously seeing it coming over, but his touch to put it in from there, the first touch was just like to put it in was just incredible. And like I said, I'm in the Kenilworth right behind the goal, and it looks a great finish. But when you watch it back, it's just like an amazing goal to be able to have that skill to do that. And like you said, it's a replica of Everton, and knowing the detail that Rob and everyone puts in, you guarantee that Carlton's going to be practicing that however many 100 times, and practice makes perfect, and it was a perfect goal.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah, he wrestled away from McGinn at the back stick, didn't he? And thumped it in the bottom corner. And like I say, James, from there was only one winner. Spoiler alert: they're wearing orange. And another gorgeous chance comes Carlton's way. I think it was Jordan Clark who the ball was rolled back to on the edge of the box. He crosses it, and Morris is in acres of space inside the penalty box. I don't know if he realised just how good a position he was in, but he heads it straight at Martinez, either side of him, and you think we're 3-2 up and pandemonium ensues, but straight at a world-class goalkeeper. You don't want to be critical, but we've mentioned it when we're comparing ourselves to these other elite strikers. They don't find middles of the goals, they find the corners of the goals, and had he have done that, and of course he didn't head it straight to him on purpose, I'm not saying that he did, but had he have found the corner, put us 3-2 up, who knows?
Yeah, well, I think you can be critical on the one hand, but also acknowledge that Morris has come good, because he had a tough time in the second half of the first half of the season, if that makes sense, before Christmas.
The win.
Yeah. So he scored a couple of goals, and then a long period without goals, and then he spent some time on the bench, and Elijah came good. But since he's come back into the side and the formation change that we mentioned maybe a month ago, where Elijah was up top and he was just behind, and that he's found a new niche, and he's come good, and he's started scoring goals or assisting goals ever since the two we came off the bench, and most notably the Sheffield United one. He's been in and amongst it, so he's come good. He's found a place and a rhythm in the Premier League. And then on the other hand, we've just seen Watkins, and before that Haaland, get a sniff and take it, and you get a header like that, and he rose highest. It wasn't like I don't think he was particularly challenged in that. He had a good run at it, he got a good connection, but it's straight at keeper, when if you just stick it either side, maybe you've got a chance. So these are the margins. We know this. I mean, it's no slight on him or any of the other players that they don't have that elite quality yet. Maybe they could get it, but it's just when you look back on it in hindsight, isn't it? Like, if that goes in, that's it. It's game over. And but even at the same time, they did not have a sniff. It wasn't like, oh my God, they're going to come good and come back, and they didn't pepper the goal. They weren't on top at any stage. It wasn't like, oh, they've had a good 5 minutes or anything like that. So to concede like they did the third one is just an absolute sickener.
Yeah, I mean, XG doesn't count for a whole lot, but our XG in the first half was 0.06. Our XG in the second half was well over 2, which kind of just highlights just the change in performances in that first half. Incidentally, that's Carlton Morris, the first Luton player to score 3 successive top-flight home games since Ian Dowie did it back in the 90s. Obviously, he scored the penalty against Sheffield United, that header against Manchester United, and then on Saturday, that lovely volley.
He was also the first to score in 3 consecutive Premier League top-flight games, wasn't he, before that?
He nabbed that off Elijah, didn't he?
He did.
Elijah's...
This is what I mean when I say he's come good and he's having an effect. He's leading the way. He's captain now as well. He's in a bloody good period, and he should have had at least all the plaudits. I've got loads of photos from this game of his celebrations, some great photos. They should have been on all the reports of everybody's stuff, and they weren't because of that goal, the third one.
Yeah, the third one. I mean, you said that they had nothing. They were offering nothing and things like that, and they weren't. You're absolutely right. The ball was firmly pointing towards the Kenilworth end throughout the whole of that second half. In fact, if you're on the halfway line, you probably got a stiff neck, didn't you? Looking towards the Kenilworth end. But then Diaby came on, and I thought, oh Christ, because he scared the wits out of me in the away game. He was absolutely brilliant. But he only came on with 10 minutes to go, so I thought we can manage 10 minutes of him, but we couldn't. Somehow we let him wriggle free to put a cross in. And I mean, we'll hear from Rob in a moment, and he's absolutely, well, he used the word angry, but he looked livid at what transpired. And I can only assume that's because this is not Issa Kabore's first rodeo where it comes to switching off at the back stick. Exeter away, Liverpool at home, and now Saturday. And these are all late in the game as well. The time where you should be the most switched on rather than the least switched on. And Mark, the cross comes over. Yes, we've let him get the cross in way too easily. But he said, just switch on and head it away. Head it behind, head it out, chest it to the goalkeeper. Do anything you want with it. But whatever you do, make sure you know Digny's coming in to head it and get to it before he gets to it.
It's the concentration. I mean, Amari'i was brilliant. He was like flying down the right wing, and he was instrumental in getting us back into the game. And he switched off for a minute. I mean, it's heartbreaking that he finds a space, he doesn't track him, and he scores a goal. But I've just got visions of quality crosses come into our box late. The Odegaard cross for the Arsenal game, the Liverpool cross when they scored in the last minute, and now this one. It can be avoided and can be defended, but the quality of the crosses is not what you need when you're going into the 89th minute and you're trying to hold on for a point.
No, it's not. It's not, but we've got to expect it, James. I mean, Diaby's what, 55 million quid? If I've got that wrong, Villa fans, I apologise, but I know he's in that sort of ballpark. He's not going to come on and, scuff his lines or stick it over or do what Chong did and pepper the bobbers stand or anything like that, is he? He's going to put in world-class deliveries, but these three games that Mark's just mentioned, Liverpool at home, Arsenal at home, and now yesterday, that's 4 points done in the exact same fashion at the exact same time of a game.
Well, more, because it should have got a win against Liverpool.
Yes, so 2 points there and then a point in the next two. 4 points. I've added this up. Don't worry. I'm good with.
It's a good job I'm not a numbers man, isn't it?
I'm good with math. I'll do the numbers. You do the words, and we're all good. But you put those 4 points onto our tally, and we're not in the bottom three. And this is how crucial this is. Now, I'm not digging Issa Kabore out. I'm really not. It could have been anyone at the back there who's done that. But when you've just come back from 2-0 down, you're on top. Surely you just cannot fall asleep in that moment, and it's just cost us so much. And we'll hear in a minute a couple of the players say that we can still take positives from the second half performance, but we don't want positives. We need points, particularly as well. The results had gone so well for us. It looked like it was going to be an atrocious day at 4:30. But thankfully, football matches these days go on till 5:05, and come 5:05, it was brilliant. Even if we'd held on for the point, probably would have been less than what we deserved on that second half performance. But to lose, and even with that point, we'd have gone to Palace next weekend, knowing that if we won and Forest lose, we're out of the bottom three. We're now still 2 results away from coming out of the bottom three, minus any points deductions or anything. And we just shouldn't be.
No, it's so frustrating. And you can watch it again and again, that goal. And
he just does not look and see that he's there, does he?
It really doesn't. And Diaby's hung that up in the air. It's a good, from a Villa perspective, it's a great cross. But he's hung it up in the air. It's up there for a million years, and he doesn't move. And Digny's got the run on him, and you don't want to. It's hard to. I don't want to dig him out, because I actually had. I know you've got a different opinion. I actually had Kabore down as my man in the match. I don't think you can give it to anyone in the first half, because.
Well, you can give it to someone in the first half.
Well, that's your argument, and I'm glad you can have that all day long. Maybe you can enlighten the people in a minute, but in the second half, so much of Luton's forward thrust came down the right with Kabore. And I know that you said many of his crosses didn't actually get to anybody, but I just don't think they were anticipating enough, that they weren't getting in there. There was not enough bodies in the box for half of them. Some of them, at least two I can remember, were decent crosses that you could make something of if you were just in there and hungrier for it. But so I had him as my man of the match, and the sponsors man of the match, it came over the tannoy as well. And
30 seconds earlier, it came over the tannoy as well.
Yeah. It's one of the few times I ever agree with the sponsors man of the match. But and I'm led to believe that he was so upset by it that he couldn't go and actually do the presentation thing in the lounge afterwards. Which fair enough. He probably that he feels it at least. But yeah, and he's young, isn't he? He's inexperienced, and maybe this is part of that. But it is costly, so costly.
Yeah, like I say, if it was the first time, then fair enough. But this is the third time. You don't want to be critical of footballers, and I certainly shouldn't be, because they have as much talent in their toenail as I do in my body where it comes to football. But we're in a league where we've spoken all season about learning. And we've learnt so much in this league. If the same error keeps on happening to the same player, at some point you've got to say, listen, when are you going to learn? And I don't know, Rob was angry for a reason, and I can only think it was for that, because it's not his first
well, he's mentioned that they didn't stop the cross as well. And
that's right.
It is right, because, I mean, I can't emphasize this enough. As good as they were in the first half, they did not have a sniff in that second half. They weren't throwing balls in the box. They weren't running through. They weren't cutting a sway. They weren't passing through. There was nothing. In the end, they've won, and that's fair play. That's why they're top four. But you've got to take your chances when you can. And there was a chance there for a win. Didn't happen. So then there's a chance there for a point, and you've got to take it.
Yeah, you do. It's, well, dare you say, it's sending us down, and we don't deserve to be sent down. Just to clear up, my man of the match was Thomas Kaminski, but for Thomas Kaminski in that first half, we go in an absolute country mile down, and the save he made from Yuri Tielemans, I think it was Tielemans, my memory's playing tricks with me, that was going in the top corner, is an absolute worldie of all worldie. He made Save of the Month contender up their place, didn't he? This was even better. It was, brilliant save. He was my man of the match yesterday, but, fair enough. It was given to Kabore. I don't use stats as a guide very often, James, but I did look on the whoscored.com website after the game yesterday to see who they thought was our best player. They actually had Kabore rated our second worst player.
Wow.
And, that, I wouldn't say he was that, but at the same time, as I say, he wasn't my sort of man of the match. Let's hear from some people that were involved in the game. We'll start off, I've just alluded to the fact that Rob was pretty upset with how things transpired in those last few minutes. And, let's hear from him now.
Yeah, as you can imagine, down. It's always hard and difficult to come out after a defeat, but one where I feel, and I might be wrong in saying, I feel like we don't deserve to, based on the performance and the chances we created and so many things. It's really difficult to take right now. I think, it's probably the angriest I've been today. Yeah. And not half time, everyone gets fixated on goals and scorelines. The performance was decent in the first half. We conceded from a corner, from a quick turnover and transition, and we conceded from a quick free kick. It's hard to get behind Aston Villa, the Champions League team, a team fighting for Champions League. What we expected to be 2-0 or something against Villa, I don't know. There was lots to like about the performance in the first half. We were a lot more solid than against City. It's just difficult to get behind them. They're so well organised. It's difficult to get around them. It's hard to create chances. So just because we were 2-0 down, there wasn't loads wrong. We shifted one or two little bits. We asked to up the intensity more, because what it doesn't matter now, 2-0 down, the game's done. We might as well, leave it all out there as we always do. Found a way to get back into the game with loads of quality, loads of endeavour, loads of passion and heart. I thought the crowd were brilliant. And it hurts now to concede in the way that we did late on. I'll struggle to sleep tonight, but I'll sleep better when I know we perform well, giving our fans something to shout about. And and entertain them, and where our fans can see that we've given everything. I want us to be good to watch. I want us to score goals. We're doing all of those things, but we need to try and
struggle to sleep.
We need to try and shut teams out and today, a few basic things that we got wrong, and we didn't shut them out. I want to win the game. In the business of trying to win games of football, 3 points helps us more than one. One helps us more than none. I know that, but I don't think it's like we were taking any more unnecessary risks at 2-2. But we wanted to win the game. It's not in our nature to, at home especially, but anywhere, to then sit and take it unless we're getting forced to do that. Villa weren't necessarily forcing us to sit back and defend. So there's no need to do that. And I think if we invite pressure with the quality that Aston Villa have got, they'll find a way. They'll find a way through. And I know they did anyway, but we could have been better in that moment.
I think that's fair enough. I don't think anyone would want us to sit back, Mark. Even at 2-2, yeah, a point's a good point, but we've seen far too many times this season when we sit back that we can get unpicked far too easily. So I wouldn't have any sort of criticisms of that or anything like that. It just so happens that it wasn't a tactical issue. It was just a person switching off at the wrong time issue, really. And there's nothing Rob can do about that other than get a microphone or a loudspeaker phone, and every time the ball goes to that back post, scream down, it's someone switch on, he's behind you.
He's behind you.
It was like pantomime, really, wasn't it? He's behind you. Wake up, he's behind you.
No, I mean, you can't fault the effort. I mean, that's what makes us all so proud of the team this season, is that they just refuse to give up in any situation, whether it's 2-0 down after 6 minutes at United, but we just came out second half. We dominated a team that's fourth, that's probably going to get Champions League football next year. So you can't criticise them just for the effort and the endeavour. It's just those moments that we switch off. Like, we switched off for the second goal when I know we've already been through it, but Ollie Watkins was actually pointing where he wanted the ball, and it's just those moments where we lose concentration. And at this level, it's stating the obvious that all these switching off moments, we're getting punished, and they're just exacerbated when it ends the way it did.
Yeah, that's it. It does seem at the minute that every time we make a mistake defensively, it ends up in the back of our net. Hopefully, that's just because of the last few games we've been playing against teams in the top 4, 5 and 6. And now that we're playing teams in the bottom 4, 5 and 6, it might level itself out a bit. We hope that's the case anyway. Let's get some more reaction for you. We've spoken about Carlton Morris as a positive, James, or rather you have. Let's hear from the town skipper.
Yeah, obviously really disappointed, to be honest. It's another occasion of the performance being there, but us not coming away with any points. It's frustrating. But the first half weren't really us. We were losing too many duels. When we started, we weren't really at the races. And, second half, it was like the switch flipped. And, that was our second half performance-wise. But, as I said, it's disappointing not to come away with any points.
Carlton, Amari'i went off in the first half, so we were disappointed. His injuries seemed to all mounted up, which is disappointing in itself. But did that perhaps have an effect on that first half?
Maybe. It's hard to tell. We've got a lot of injuries at the moment, but try not to get too bogged down on it. We just control the controllables.
Your mate Elijah, who's doing well.
He's doing well. He's doing well. We don't want to take any chances. Obviously, with a hamstring, it can get a lot worse. But he'll hopefully be back as soon as possible.
Finding the net yourself now. That's a couple of games in a row where you've been involved in goals. That must be good for you.
Yeah, I mean, listen, obviously that's my main job as a forward, creating goals and scoring them. But it's extremely frustrating when it doesn't follow with a result. But I'm just going to keep working hard, keep the team positive. It's a humble, hard working group. That's what we do, and that's what's going to get us out of this fight.
Yeah, I like Carlton as sort of the leader and the captain. He's the perfect person to sort of front up. It's, as James said earlier in the podcast, it's a shame he was fronting up after a defeat. He certainly didn't deserve to do that. And I mentioned the WhoScored.com ratings. He was our highest rated player over the course of the afternoon on that website. So, another good performance from Carlton Morris. Another positive that we need to speak about, James, we spoke about him after the Man City game, but I think it's only fair that we speak even more about him after this game, because he played a completely different position to when he come on against Manchester City, is Daiki Hashioka, who, I mean, the game changed once he came on. Yes, it changed, not just because he came on, but because of what it meant to Alfie, to Chio, and everything else. But this is a guy who's we're led to believe is a right back stroke right wing back who can play right centre back. No one mentioned that he could play left centre back with his eyes shut, really, which is how he was playing it. You can tell that he's a Luton Town signing, can't you? He looks so natural on the ball. Doesn't matter whether he's given the ball in a tricky situation or whether it's not quite to his feet or it's, you know, it's kind of up around his shins or whatever. He'll just control it, move it on. He's got pace to burn. He just looks an exciting talent, and I want to see a bit more of him, to be quite honest.
Well, I think you're going to, mate, because we've got no defenders. So, it's good that he's come in at this time, because I don't anticipate that Bell's going to be back quickly. I mean, I hope I'm completely wrong by that. And who knows about Osho, because he wasn't even in the squad. So, Mads has put out a video, and they've been doing some exercises. Hopefully, that means he's a bit back sooner. Although the previous home game, I saw him walk through the mixed zone. Like he only had one leg, so God knows.
What also we thought marvellous, his social media post meant he was coming back in the foreseeable, and we might not see him again this season. So stop giving us hope with these social media posts, lads, because Sambi's put one out of him and Eli as well, bashing the hell out of a bike, and you know, just get on that pitch, please, especially you two.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, in terms of Hashioka, he was quality. He looked assured, did simple stuff, but I had every faith that he would come in and do that anyway, because when you just look at how the Japanese side played in the World Cup, every single one of them, 100% effort, all knew their roles very well. None of them particularly spectacular, but as a unit, fantastic. Obviously beat Spain, beat Germany. You don't do that if you're a bunch of mugs, and that's got to be a football culture there. So you would hope so anyway, and everything that you saw from that game suggested that that's not his position, but he comes in and he does it well, it makes it look a bit simple, and that's the sign of a top player. Obviously, you know, how many times have we waxed lyrical about Ross Barkley and Sambi for the same sort of thing in a different place, and obviously more attacking, that they just seem to have time and space and don't look rushed, and that was the first impression of Hashioka. I mean, you know, he came on before for a little bit of a cameo in a previous home game, but what it does, obviously, in that game is freed up Doughty from probably his head spinning, having to be as a left centre back. I mean, I couldn't even believe it when I saw it happening. I was like, what the hell upside down world are we in here? And Chio a bit further forward as well, and you know, he had a good second half as many of the others did, and Doughty too got further forward, was able to play in some crosses. He was obviously got the assist for Morris's goal, so it gave more impetus in attacking sense, when in the first half there was absolutely none. There was nothing happening, so it changed things up, and maybe. Actually, I don't think there'd be a complacency from Villa. They probably just were on easy street, and they didn't have to try very hard to be 2-0 up. So they, you know, but then when the game changes in that way, and you've got two extra players that had to be on the pitch doing what they're supposed to be doing rather than something pretty alien to them, then it all makes sense, and it all stemmed from Hashioka's introduction, I think.
Yeah, it did, Mark. I mean, we've only seen him twice, but you can see him becoming quite a cult sort of hero at the club, can't you? He's just, both times he's come on the pitch, he's come on with a smile on his face, and he just seems to be enjoying it, and he's obviously got a work rate that Town fans love to watch. And yeah, like I said, I'm looking forward to seeing more of him.
It's his energy as well. I mean, when he came out on the pitch for the Brighton game, he just has that personality that you warm to, and his energy. And I saw an interview with Rob saying that he's got a goal or two in him as well, judging by what he's been doing in training. So he's just a Luton Town player, just in terms of it's just another incredible signing that the recruitment team have managed to find, and is very much Luton Town player, and we're all excited. Bear in mind, he's played against Manchester City and Aston Villa, so he's played against two of the top sides, and he looks totally comfortable.
He must be thinking, what the hell's going on? Because when he came, they battered Brighton 4-0, and then the game after that, Newcastle won, and it's been a bit the opposite ever since. But he's got to be pleased with his debut there.
Yeah, absolutely, he has.
It wasn't his debut, was it?
Premier League debut. I'll let you off with that one. Yeah, yeah, he has. This all sounds stupid, but I actually thought we defended all right yesterday. I did, compared to how we defended in a kind of kamikaze way against Man City. By and large, Mengi was as good a match for Watkins as he could be, particularly in the second half. Every ball that went up to Watkins, Mengi was in front of or threw him out the way, and, not in a sort of fouled way, but was just stronger than him. And Reece Burke was a Rolls Royce again during the game. He was kind of unlucky for the second goal, wasn't he? Because he was just in the process of getting booked, and the referee didn't really give him time to get back into position before he let the free kick get taken. I understand that. If that's the other way around, I'd want the free kick to be allowed to be taken because it's meant to be your advantage. I get that. But I just thought Burke played really well, and I thought Mengi did all right. And, we've just spoken about Hashioka. Somehow you'd look at it, we're not defended too badly. You look at the scoreline, 2-3. How's that happened?
Exactly. I still can't fathom it because, how many more times left to state that Aston Villa didn't have nothing in that second half and they've still come away with the win? It's beyond frustrating.
If that's not the thumbnail for this podcast, Aston Villa had nothing in the second half, then you're doing it wrong, to be honest. Let's hear from Reece Burke, because it's great to have him back. We love him on this podcast, and he's obviously just played 90 minutes in succession, which we're always a little bit nervy about, aren't we, with regards to Reece Burke, but he seems to have done it perfectly, and long may that continue. James caught up with him after the game.
That felt like a sickener at the end. What was your take on it?
Yeah, no, we got it as a team. Obviously, the first half weren't good enough from us. For second half, we was the better team. Obviously, got ourselves back in it, and to be fair, it looked like we was probably the ones that could have nicked it. But yeah, disappointed with the last goal, and then obviously to come out with a game with no points is it's disappointing.
Feels harsh, doesn't it? Because I know you're playing the likes of Liverpool and Arsenal, but these late goals are killers.
Yeah. Again, we need to obviously learn from it. I know the last goal was a killer, but even the first two probably not good enough. So yeah, we need to look at that and obviously get better.
What happened at half time? There must have been some rousing team talk, because it was like night and day, different performance second half.
Yeah, I just think as a team and even the staff, we just knew we wasn't where we can be. And it's been like that quite previously as well. Starting games slow and obviously chasing them. But yeah, no, it was better second half. I think the lads came out fighting, and again we did manage to get ourselves back in the game. But as you say, we didn't get anything.
Yeah, it was disappointing in the end. But do you take heart from that second half performance?
Yeah, definitely. We need to take that into the next game and try and start games how we finished today. Obviously, it's been first half was a bit difficult, losing Belly early on. But we've got players coming back now, hopefully for the next game. And again, I think the next few games are big games for us in terms of trying to get some points on the board. So yeah, we need to keep pushing on and fighting. But yeah, we've got a great bunch of lads, and I'm sure we'll do that.
His defensive injuries are racking up, aren't they? Amari'i went off today, and early doors, so I think 7 minutes. Did that probably have an effect on the first half, or were there other factors?
No, I wouldn't say that. Obviously, it does disrupt the game a little bit in terms of him coming off early, but no, I thought the way we carried ourselves was good. I thought especially the second half, we made a few more subs. Hashi'd come on, not really played a lot for us, but again, I thought it was brilliant. And I think everybody that came on done well. And I don't know, I think after half time, it's sort of like a reality check to get everybody firing again. And I think that's what happened.
I guess Hashi might have to play a bit more now, given the injuries. It's one of those bare bone scenarios, isn't it?
Yeah, again, that's down to the manager, what he wants to do. As you say, we have got a few injuries, and I think, I'm not too sure, but I don't think they're long term. So I will be expecting, obviously, a few of the boys to be back soon.
Yeah, those injuries are starting to mount up, but thankfully Reece Burke isn't one of those, and hopefully he can have a decent run of games. Obviously, we've got an international break coming up, so if we can get him to there, that would be absolutely fantastic, because these defensive injuries, Mark, they are starting to take their toll, aren't they? And if Amari'i Bell is out for any period of time, and I mean, he wouldn't have gone off if he wasn't in real trouble 5 minutes into a game. You know, we don't know the situation with Gabe, and as James alluded to, whilst Mads has posted a social media post, he's unlikely to go from a boot and crutches to football within a couple of weeks. So, yeah, we do need Reece Burke fit and as many defenders as we can possibly get for these 3 big games coming up.
Yeah, and the nature of hamstring injuries is that they can't be rushed, because you try and rush a hamstring injury, makes it sound like I know what I'm talking about, but you try and rush them back, and it just means the time on the sidelines is even longer. But it takes me back to the Championship season where we had 4 fullbacks across the defence, and it just feel a bit like that. And with the Premier League, the intensity is that much more, and that's maybe why that we're getting more injuries, that the can't coast through games like we might have been able to do in the Championship. They're having to give everything and more. And obviously in the Premier League, we're now playing 100 minutes, not 90 minutes.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. The intensity of this league is pretty crazy. And yeah, when the opposition are bringing £50 million worth of talent off the bench, you do have to play all of those 100 minutes, as Mark alludes to. James caught up with one more person after the game. No one else wanted to talk to him, but thankfully Jordan Clark stopped by for his reflections on that agonising late defeat.
Oh, yeah, I feel sick. Really do. It's chasing games every week's not good. You know, giving two goals away every week's mountain to climb every week, but shows the character we've got. I know he keeps saying it every week, so it's a bit boring in a minute, but like I said, you can't keep giving 2-0 head starts away, but because like I said, from 2-0 down, a point's a good point in the end. It's tough, you know. Obviously, we're making the same mistakes every week at the minute, so it's something we need to address. It's nothing to do with tactics or anything like that. It's just like individual errors which is costing us. But we need to stick together as a team and iron it out ourselves in the change rooms and in the meetings and stuff. And we need to improve quickly because, like I said, we're running out of games. You know, obviously we said as home games are going to be vital this season, so. Obviously, that's another one that slipped away from us, and we're on a bit of a losing streak in the league, which needs to change. Yeah, I think we was off it. Yeah, he's just felt so slow when we had the ball and that, and the game plan we tried, the balls over the top just were like short or over here. You know, it just weren't working. And then the high press, which is usually really good for us, it sort of like was a bit half and half, not aggressive as like we normally are, and just made it so easy for him to get out, which is not good. And then obviously. Up to the strikers and their attacking players, and it was just rather not tight, or they did us in behind. It was just off it, and it weren't us, which is frustrating and stuff. And like I said, half time we obviously nothing to lose, which is not a good thing to say. But got back into the game really well, and then obviously, like I said, I thought there was only one winner. Felt there was only one winner in the game, you know, and I thought it's coming. We had a lot of chances and stuff, and a couple of misses, and but. The worst you get is a 2-2, you know, and you take a point away from him. But like I said, to lose a game is a bit of a signal. The stuff we worked on, we never carried it out. You know, it was either the quality or the press or anything. Just a bit lackluster, really. And we were like a bit too nicey, you know. And we know when teams come here, you've got to upset them a little bit. And he just said, obviously, you've got nothing to lose now. Bit of a funny one because. Everyone knew, you could tell we're off it, so we needed a reaction. And we said if we get the first goal, obviously we know we can do it, this, especially at the Kenny, you know, we get 1 and 2 and then we go on to win the game. But like I said, when I got back to 2-2, I felt there was on a winner. But obviously it wasn't to be, so yeah, disappointing in the end.
Obviously just a little bit of background noise in that last piece of interview. As we've said on previous podcasts, the mixed zone is in the corridor at Kenilworth Road, so we do apologise for that. We've done our best to get rid of as much of it as we can and hope that basically you got the gist of what Clicker was saying, and he's quite right, Mark. This going 2-0 down malarkey, it's not helping us one bit, and in these next 3 games, if there's one thing that we can do above anything else, it's stay level for a lot longer and just not give ourselves a mountain to climb.
I think the important thing is, it sounds obvious, but stay in the game.
Yep.
Because if you can stay in the game, you can control it more. You're not having to make, Rob's not having to make changes to try and chase the game or to impact it further up the field. If we get the first goal, you can control it more. The substitutions can then manage the game better. But Clicker's right. It's when you go 2-0 down at this level of opposition in this league, it's really putting a big shift and a big effort in just to get back into the game, to get level. But it's just frustrating. But just got to try and stay in the game a lot longer than we are doing. And I've always said that the first goal is just absolutely critical. You get the first goal. I know we've conceded a few leads, but you get the first goal, you can control the game better.
Yep. We've said throughout many podcasts, the first goal in this league in particular is absolutely essential. And to be fair to us, James, when we don't get it, we still get ourselves in a position in games whereby we can get something from the game. You know, you think of sort of other games, and you look at other teams and they're losing 4-0, 5-0. We don't do that, whether we concede the first goal or the second goal. At some point in the game, we're in there to get something from each game, and it's like, I don't know if that's more annoying. It was put to Rob in a part of his press conference that we didn't put on the podcast earlier, but I don't know if it's more annoying that we're in every game or whether we'd rather be beaten a few times and then get what you get out of the games that you are actually in, if you know what I mean. I don't know which way around. I probably would rather it this way, to be honest. I just hope the last 12 games that we've got that are just desserts come our way.
I think it has to be this way around, because the other option is just get battered and demoralised, really, and that's what the other two below are seemingly dealing with, whereas Luton have fight in them, and even most games there's sort of one goal in it. It's only been a few times where they've been comfortably beaten, and even when you look at the Man City game where the scoreline looks like an absolute drubbing, which it is, but there's still some positives in there in the way that they took it to Man City, and you only have to listen to some of their lot talk about how Luton did that, which is it's a compliment, albeit it's a pretty empty one when you've got knocked out of the FA Cup to an absolute machine like Haaland and Kevin De Bruyne. But it's disappointing in the extreme, really, to be, for a third home game in a row, to be 2-0 down, at least 2 goals down by half time. Considering all we wanted was them to be in it by midway through the first half, and still 2 goals because of a lack of concentration. You wouldn't mind if Kevin De Bruyne was doing that too. I mean, you would mind eventually, don't get me wrong, but you'd come to terms with it if Kevin De Bruyne type player was absolutely running the show and playing at a level that you can't possibly get to. But it's just mistakes, and mistakes. It's always mistakes. How many times have somebody, everybody in the opposition teams had a touch of the ball, but when they've passed it around Luton, that's not happened. How many times has been a worldie? Twice. Mistakes all the time. Still costing.
Yep. Hopefully that second half performance can be replicated in the next 3 games, and if it is, I'm certain that there are points up for grabs for us, and there needs to be. We get into that part of the season now where performances need to go down as not particularly important in comparison to the results. And yeah, hopefully we get some of those. That's it for the football part of this podcast. But Mark, we got you on particularly on this episode of the podcast because we're just over a week away from that rescheduled game at AFC Bournemouth, which is going to be an emotional night for everyone and an emotional day for you because you're running a special challenge. Talk to us a little bit about what it is that you're doing on that day.
So as a lot of people who know me know that I've done the Premier Pedal Challenge this season, and I've already cycled to Bournemouth once, so you'd think I'd know the way. I hope I do, but no. So obviously it's a massive day. It's very emotional for the club because of what happened to Tom, and so I've decided to cycle to Bournemouth again, but I'm trying to raise awareness for the British Heart Foundation, and basically it's 124 miles. I was tired the first time when I did it over 2 days, and this time I've got to do it in a day. So, but basically it's for a great cause. It's raising awareness for all the heroes that helped save Tom's life at the original game, for the fantastic work that British Heart Foundation do, but also sort of raising awareness. And as Tom has said in his interview, that it takes 15 minutes to learn how to perform CPR. And I've included a link on my donation page. I've been on and I've done it, and it was very clear and very easy to sort of be trained on what to do in CPR. So basically, within 90 minutes of a football game, five people suffer an out of hospital cardiac arrest. So I think it's really important that people understand what to do if they're put into that situation. So I'm basically cycling to Bournemouth. If anyone wants to join me, whether it be a mile or however far, it would be great to see you. I'll be setting off from Kenilworth Road at about 7 o'clock on the Wednesday. And yeah, so far I've raised £185 for the British Heart Foundation. So if anyone wants to support, whether come along or donate, it will really help. It's going to be an emotional day for everyone. It was just a harrowing experience from the game in December, as everyone knows, and it's just like for Tom, who's our courageous captain, is just trying to sort of like do my bit, basically.
Yeah, I sort of introduced Mark before the intro to this podcast as an incredible Luton fan, and this is exactly why I introduced him in that way. It's fantastic what you're doing, Mark. I mean, fantastic what you've done with all of your previous cycles. But like you say, this one's going to have that sort of extra resonance because we're talking about literally life and death here. And of course, we all feared the worst on that dreadful day back in December. We know that there's lots of people that watch this, not necessarily Luton fans, but you don't have to be a Luton fan to support Mark in this challenge. He's going to cycle from Kenilworth Road to the Vitality Stadium in 1 day, 124 miles in a day. That's an incredible effort. If you can just spare a few pennies, they will go to a very, very, very good cause of the British Heart Foundation. We will put Mark's Just Giving page link in the video notes for this podcast. They're all over our social media feeds, and they'll be over our website as well. So if you can spare anything to Mark as a donation, or if you want to join him, as he said, he's setting off at 7 o'clock that morning. Please do, because it's a really worthy cause and an amazing challenge that this man on my left hand side is undertaking, and we wish you all the very best, Mark.
Thank you. It's it's a daunting day, but it's for a brilliant cause, and just I'm sure there's going to be some Bournemouth fans that are going to join in as well at the other end. So honestly, I'm just so grateful for all the support. It's from yourselves, everyone at the Supporters Trust. Like I said, £185 already. That money will really help. So yeah, just thank you to everyone, and look forward to the day, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if you're going to the game, obviously we don't need to pay and you had a ticket to the first game, obviously we don't need to pay again. So maybe, donate sort of a few quid if you can from what you would have been paying on a ticket price towards Mark's cycle ride. As I say, it really is a worthy cause, and we can't get behind that enough. Absolute incredible effort.
It's remarkable. I mean, just not only that, just managing to cycle to all these places. I mean, how you do it to for two lads who get a sweat on sitting down, how you even manage to cycle to the likes of Newcastle and places that far afield is unbelievable. So fair play to you.
Yep. Indeed. As I say, once again, if you can support Mark, we'd really appreciate it. If if you can. That is it for this episode of the podcast. Thanks to Mark for joining us. We really appreciate you coming along.
Thank you.
Thanks as always to James for keeping me company for the last hour or so as well. And thanks to you for watching or listening, however it is that you've consumed this podcast. Please do keep your comments coming. There were plenty of them in the preview podcast. As I say, Aston Villa fans, we didn't mean to point out your away form's crap. We merely compared it to your home form, which is absolutely exceptional.
I've got a lot of time for Villa fans.
I do too.
We're coming up to play Notts Forest soon, who are a bunch of crybabies, but Aston Villa this season have been absolutely fantastic, so fair play to you.
Indeed so, yeah. Great. Had a great afternoon at Villa Park earlier in the season, minus the result, and had a pretty good afternoon yesterday, again, minus the result. But yeah, thanks for your comments. Thanks for everyone who's subscribed. These podcasts are going to start coming thick and fast again with that midweek game looming large on the horizon. So if you don't want to miss out on a single episode, hit that subscribe button and you'll make sure you get a notification when they drop. Thanks very much to the Hightown Club for hosting our studio as always, to Sean Grant and the Wolfgang for our intro music. We're not talking any more about him if he's a Villa fan. That's the end of that for this one. And to Ed Smith Creative for all the designs that you see on set. Until next time, which will be a preview of an absolutely massive Premier League game of football against Crystal Palace. From the three of us, come on you Hatters.
I love this town. I love this town. I love this town. You know what I love about this town is actually you. Everyone in it has got this massive soul.